Warning, the following program is designed for casual wrestling fans and is meant purely for entertainment. If you're SAWFT, proceed at your own risk. Viewer discretion is advised.
Brother, I'm going run a wild Hulk Hogan. If all I get's a moment, I'll make sure it's an explosion. Cause lately I've been seeing stars, trying to kick out on this chokehold. But it's no holds barred, middle fingers like I'm Stone Cold.
What is up, everybody? It is your boy WeTooDeep, and we are back with another episode of the Slap and Meat Wrestling Podcast. Now, this episode will release on Friday, but as explained in the previous episodes, I'm recording this on a Tuesday, just the way my work schedule worked out, but it will drop on Friday, as you guys know, as you were listening to it. Just getting that out of the way, because a lot of times, if you haven't picked up on these Friday episodes, sometimes when I talk about like wrestling, a lot of times I like to lean into the conversation me and Wavy D had on Tuesday. Well, I'm not able to do that, and so there's a couple like things that like, I don't know how that conversation is going to go. Or as I'm recording this, it's Tuesday morning, and me and Wavy D record Tuesday night. In about 12 hours, me and Wavy D, I'll be sitting right back here at this microphone with Wavy D for the Tuesday episode, right? And so just wanted to get that out of the way. That way you understand it. The formatting of this show is a little bit different, in that I'm not able to lean into that conversation and dig deeper and go further on my opinions there, right? We have essentially three different topics we're talking today. We'll go over NXT Deadline and predict that. I got some college football stuff I want to talk about, and then we're going to end the show on a more controversial sort of pop culture discussion. Y'all like when I rant? This is where my rant's going to come today. Is this pop culture discussion on something that I want to bring up, right? Again, it's my opinion, so I'm not trying to force it upon anyone. I just want to, I've always said that this podcast was, in any iteration that it has been or will always be, right? Any iteration of what it has been or what it will be, is just my opinion. It's just a place for me to vent. And this was a discussion that me and Wavy D were essentially, Junkyard James was joining in on this, and I want to bring it to the podcast. I want to voice my opinion in a way that I can explain it in sort of not textual form over chat, right? So, it is something that I think I want to, I'll put out there, see what you guys think. You may not agree with it, and that's fine. It is that is the awesome ability of having opinions. But I'll bring that to you at the very end of this podcast. So let's start with what the wrestling fans came here with, as we're transitioning these Friday shows to more of a a pop culture type thing as well, right? Including sports, including other culture things, pop culture and stuff like that. As we're doing that, I want to, I understand the audience is still wrestling based. So a lot of this conversation will be wrestling still. And that's still the point of this podcast is wrestling. And so I want to give you guys considerable amount of time with the wrestling content. So with that, let's dive on in to NXT Deadline this week. And I said on my Sunday afternoon podcast drop about Survivor Series, that this is the time for Chef Michaels to show everybody how to book a show, right? And guys, wrestling fans are blessed and spoiled. I don't think we realize this, because I realized this watching Raw on Monday, was that we're going to have 4 Saturdays in a row with some sort of big PLE or big TV event, right? We had Full Gear, we had Survivor Series. This week we have Deadline. Next Saturday is Saturday Night Main Event. An entire 4 weeks, an entire month of product from, November into December, right? Of just straight wrestling product on big time events for a month straight. Is crazy, right? And so we get to, Triple H is going to show us again, because we'll go ahead and predict. I'm going to go ahead and predict what's going to happen, right? Triple H gives us like a very, very straightforward, not exciting Survivor Series. At the cost of doing that, for the benefit of being able to do all these big things at Saturday Night Main Event on TV. And I understand the business strategy behind it. I just, as a fan, and I'm not a fan of that, right? And I've made that opinion known, right? But anyway, Deadline, Minneapolis, Minnesota, in the Armory. If y'all have ever never done a show in an armory, bro, go to an indie show in an armory. It's a fun experience. Or if NXT ever comes to your area and they're running an armory, it's a fun experience. Anyway, all right, let's pull up the matches. We'll save the Iron Survivors for last. We only have 4 matches on the card right now. See, this was always going to be the issue with predicting Deadline prior to the actual, this is part of the reason why, like, if I was recording this on a Friday morning, I would have the full card, right? So I'm only going to be able to predict quite really not much of anything, because we don't have a full card. So I don't have the 5th opponent in the Iron Survivors. One of the other matches is Axiom and Nathan Fraser versus the Tag Team Battle Royal winners. Don't know who that's going to be. And right, the only match that I know for certain is the title match between Trick and Ridge, right? So we're gonna do some guessing, right? Here's what I'll say. With Axiom and Nathan Fraser, let's go on this bout right here. With Axiom and Nathan Fraser, with the limited knowledge that I have, because it's harder to predict a tag team battle royal. I'm not exactly sure, because the way they've booked this tag team division, they've made it front and center one of the most exciting things on NXT, right? Something that Triple H could learn from. Front and center, one of the most exciting things on NXT is this tag team division that's so deep that they can't get everyone on TV in matches, and so they bring them on TV every week in brawls backstage that lead to a battle royal to determine the number 1 contender, right? I don't know who the winner is going to be. Here's what I do know. Axiom and Fraser are losing. Or if they either lose, or if they retain, it's going to be something along the line of Fraser gets hurt in this match and has to withdraw from the Iron Survivor or something like that. Or Fraser, it depends on the ordering of the match, I'm assuming, though it's not guaranteed. Because I have a feeling, right? I have a feeling the women's Iron Survivor's ending the show. I have that feeling. They're going to start with one and end with the other. Typically, just like with War Games, they start with the women at the beginning and then end with the men. But I would not be shocked if we start with the men's Iron Survivor. Right? We move on to another match. They're going to add a fifth match in this card. And I have a feeling, I actually don't have a feeling, because I was thinking about it. It's probably going to be someone versus Eddie Thorpe. But Eddie Thorpe's in that final match, the final shot match tonight. So there's no way to really set that up. First off, I'm okay with just a 4-match card for this event. These 4 matches are bangers, and it gives the Iron. Now, granted, the Iron Survivor, right? The Iron Survivor is a little bit different than like a War Game style match, because the Iron Survivor is going to be 25 minutes no matter what. It's going to be 25 minutes no matter what. And because if I understand it correctly, it's the first 2 enter, right? First 2 enter, go 5 minutes. The next one enters, 5 minutes. The fourth one enters. After 15 minutes of the match, all 5 women or men are in the match. And then you basically go for 10 minutes. And at the end of the 25 minutes, whoever has the most points wins, correct? Is that how that's how I believe I understand it after seeing it for 2 years. So you're only going to have essentially about an hour worth of product with the 2 Iron Survivors if you put in entrances and stuff like that, right? Trick and Ridge are probably going to go around 20, 25 minutes, and then the tag match is probably going to go about 20, 25 minutes. So you're looking at 2 hours worth of content. And that makes that makes some sense, because WWE loves to do about 15 minutes in between matches and vignettes and promos and commercials. And so I could honestly see this being just the 4. I can't predict what a 5th match is going to be, even though I love NXT. All the major stories. Now, the only thing I can see is if Ashante and Dion Lennox, or Brinley Reese and Carmen, or maybe a mixed gender match again. But that feels like that's like made for TV. So I can't predict a 5th match. So here's what I'll say with the Battle Royal. My official prediction. If Axiom and Fraser lose, actually, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this. The men's Iron Survivor is going to start Deadline. Nathan Fraser is going to get injured in that match. And Axiom's going to have to go alone in this tag team match, which causes them to lose the title. Right now, Axiom's a fighter, so he's going to do this sort of like handicap style match, which causes him to lose the titles. If I had a hunch on who was going to be their opponents, see, I don't know if they're going to have any surprise teams show up tonight for the Battle Royal. Just going offhand, I'm going to say OTM. I'm going to go OTM. It's got to be a heel team. And so I'm going to go OTM. And I do think OTM wins that Battle Royal. I just thought about it when I thought about OTM. We could get a Lola Vice versus Jada Parker match to sort of end this feud. If Jada doesn't win the final spot in. Right? So let's go ahead and get the easy. And when I say easy, because it's the one that we have everything known about this. Rich Holland versus Trick Williams. The only match that we know so far of every stipulation and all of that, right? I think Rich Holland is winning the NXT Championship. That's my prediction, because here's why. Here's why. Trick Williams is in the Netflix ad for Raw. I think he shows up on the January 6th episode of Raw. if they're smart, they could keep him champion and book him on both shows. But I don't think that's what Netflix wants. I think Trick Williams. My opinion on Royal Rumble is slowly changing. I thought Braun Breaker may win Rumble. I'm now thinking that it's going to be Trick Williams. I do. I now think it's going to be Trick Williams. And I think Rich Holland, for whatever reason, it's really liked backstage with this. We can get a heel champion, and because of that prediction, that prediction influences the Men's Iron Survivor. So we'll have a clearer picture when the men. That's why I also believe that they're going to do Men's Iron Survivor to start the show. And so let's move to that match. So I think the first off, let's predict Tuesday night, ahead of time. As I'm recording this on a Tuesday, that's very important in the crutch of this episode. I'm predicting before NXT. I think the fifth member of this match is going to be. First off, if you don't know, the four contenders is Cedric Alexander, Eddie Thorpe, Lexis King, and the fourth one just slipped my mind. Oh Lord, he just slipped my mind. Seti, Lexis King, Eddie Thorpe. Oh God. And Axiom. Axiom. So I think it's not going to be Eddie Thorpe because there's a bigger story with Eddie Thorpe. I think it's going to be Lexis King. I do think it's going to be Lexis King. So that makes the five people in the Men's Iron Survivor: Wesley, Javon Evans, Nathan Fraser, Ethan Page, and Lexis King. And I do believe that the winner of that match will be Javon Evans. And if Javon Evans wins, that makes sense as to why Rich Holland's going to be champion, because the number one contender gets the match, or they become number one contender if they win, which is what you're supposed to do when you book a stipulation match, or a gimmick match. You're supposed to have a reason for the match, right? If War Games had a reason, I would care more about it, right? My favorite Survivor Series match was, I believe it was Sting's debut, which was 2016. Was it 2016? 2015, right? Because the stipulation was if Team Authority won, everyone that was on Team Cena was going to get fired. And if Team Cena won, then the Authority were out of power and they were free from the tyranny that was the Authority, right? And so as the Authority doing everything they can to keep control, Triple H bending the rules, bringing out Scott Armstrong as this sort of henchman referee like he always does, right? When JBL was like, oh, and who else? It's Scott Armstrong, right? And then the music hits and Sting debuts to save the WWE Universe from the tyranny that is, right? Because there was a stipulation, that match meant something. But these War Game matches, for the most part, don't have stipulations. They don't have the winner gets this, right? Right? So they mean less to me. These mean a lot because the winner becomes the number one contender, right? So I believe we start with the Men's Iron Survivor to start the night. I think Javon Evans wins. If Javon Evans wins, that gives me a telltale sign that Rich Holland's winning the NXT Championship. Now, I'm not against Rich Holland because I love this Rich Holland. What they've done with Rich Holland since he returned to NXT was fantastic, right? I always felt that Rich Holland was moved up to the main roster way too early. And I'm not blaming him for Big E's injury. It was a freak accident on a move that probably shouldn't have been done. But it was a freak accident, and I think it could have been avoided, though, had Ridge Holland spent a little bit more time in NXT coming back from his own leg injury. But I don't blame him. I think anyone who does blame him, I've seen comments where, people are complaining about him where, oh, he ruined Big E's career, but now and he gets rewarded by a number one contender for the NXT champion. Guys, we got to get over this. We got to get over Ridge Holland. Ridge Holland's, putting in fantastic heel work week in and week out. And here's what I believe. Bro just ended Chase U, right? There's heel something. Now, I don't know if Chase U gets involved in this match. I don't think they do. I think there's a bigger story with Chase U, ending with that cliffhanger we did with that segment last week. I think there's a bigger story than them costing Ridge this title, right? I think Ridge wins, and then him and Javon Evans will fight at either New Year's Eve or Vengeance Day to start the year, one of those events. And eventually Javon Evans will win the title. Now, I don't think Ethan Page will win, but if I could see someone like a Wes Lee winning this match, and that will tell me that Trick is keeping the title. If one of the heels, whether it's Ethan Page or Wes Lee, if one of those heels, right? I don't see Nathan Frazier. As much as I would love to see Nathan Frazier win this match, I think he's in it for the story of the tag team match because he's in 2 matches, and I think he gets hurt in this match. Right? And if I'm wrong and maybe they start with the tag team match, and maybe Frazier gets hurt there and they have to replace him in the Iron Survivor. Maybe that's how Axiom takes his spot and maybe steals his shine. Who knows, right? Then the last match to predict here is the women's, what I think is the main event, the women's Iron Survivor match. So guaranteed in right now, Sol Ruca, Stephanie Vaquer, Julia, Zarya, the number one final, what's it called? Last chance Iron Survivor qualifying match. We have 4 people in their own right who could be in this match. Jada Parker, Cora Jade, Kalani Jordan, Ren Sinclair. Ren is not winning, unfortunately. I don't think Jada's going to win. Right, I'm trying to think logically. I think it's going to be Kalani. I think it's going to be Kalani. Either way, I don't think this one does, just like the men's one. This person isn't necessarily important in this match because I don't believe it has much of an impact on the match itself. I think Stephanie Vaquer is winning this no matter who wins the final shot match tonight. Sol Ruca is there to do her amazing things she does in these type of matches, right? But I also think she's about to ride off into the sunset on NXT and show up at the Royal Rumble. I think that's her picture. I think she's moving on. She's moving up. She's been running main event of episodes and dark matches and her time on NXT I think is up. They've clearly made this distinction that the women's division here on out is going to be Vaquer, Julia, Zarya. That's sort of the foundation of the new women's division. Right. And so I thoroughly feel that Stephanie Vaquer, so Julia's, already had her shot. I think we'll go Vaquer. I think Vaquer takes the title off of Roxanne. at whether it's New Year's Eve or whether it's Vengeance Day. And Roxanne moves on to the main roster as well. So there's that. That's Deadline, right? There's still a lot of unknowns, so I can't give a full breakdown of the card. I'll probably post something along the lines of my full predictions on the day of the event on Saturday. But with it, that's what we got. That's the struggle of recording this before NXT happened, before I have the full card. But we got to work with what we got, right? So let's move on to this college football discussion. So we got two topics. I want to talk about the college football playoff itself as we head into conference championship weekend and who I would have in my final 12. And then I want to talk about, and we're going to start, though, with the Heisman talk, right? So there's three guys in the picture right now. These are going to probably be the three finalists. You'll have Lenore Sellers out of South Carolina, Ashton Jeanty from Boise State, and Travis Hunter from Colorado, right? So first off, let's just start with, as much as people complain about NIL and transfer portal and all of that stuff, right? As much as people complain about that, it's creating parity in college football. And what I'm, at least in the Heisman picture, because 5 years ago, you're not getting Ashton Jeanty, a player from Colorado, right? First off, Travis Hunter doesn't go. If NIL and the transfer portal weren't a thing, Travis Hunter doesn't go to Jackson State when he initially signed, right? He doesn't do that. He goes to Florida State. He was the number one recruit in his class. He goes to where he's going to play and be the biggest name, right? If transfer portal and NIL weren't a thing, you go to where you get the better chance to make the league, right? And that's Florida State. He goes to Jackson State to be with Prime with the understanding, and Prime probably filled him in on this, that, hey, man, within the next, probably by the end of your freshman year, Trav, we're moving to a Power 5 school, right? I got offers, and I'm going to take you with me, right? And Colorado ends up being that school. And it's not the biggest of Power 5 schools, but it's still a Power 5 school with Prime still as your coach. So you get the media presence and you get, right? And so it creates parity in that bigger players are going to smaller schools if the smaller schools can afford to have them. Right? You wouldn't have a final 3 Heisman candidate that doesn't include at least one player from Alabama or Georgia or Ohio State, right? This is like the first time I can remember that the Heisman's going to be Colorado, a Colorado, a Boise, a South Carolina, right? And not a big name, big school conference, right? Big blue blood school, right? So first off, I enjoy that. But let's break down in who I think should win the Heisman. Lenore Sellers is a fantastic player. I don't get all of a sudden why, there's this hype around him winning the Heisman. He's not winning the Heisman. You're not winning the Heisman. I get you're a great athlete. I do. Try again next year, Lenoris. But you haven't been in the picture all year, and all of a sudden, you have 3 good weeks where you prove that, you can bully people in the run game. That doesn't put you in this picture, especially when the other two are far and ahead of you. I think this is really a two-man race. And it's between Travis Hunter and Ashton Jeanty. So Travis Hunter is probably the favorite. And I think the justification for this is completely wrong. The people who want Travis Hunter and say Travis Hunter has locked this up are, a guy, the reasoning is like the dude plays 150 plays a game. He plays both sides. He has this and that and this and that. Guys, you're buying into the narrative the media is showing, and the media is super biased when it comes to the Heisman. Right? I completely do not care about the Heisman champion trophy. To be honest, I believe it's lost a lot of its meaning and purpose. It's supposed to tell me who the most outstanding college football player is that year, right? But what instead it's turned into, I stopped caring in 2016 about this award. In 2016, Lamar Jackson completely stole this award from Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson had an absolute superstar year. And because Lamar Jackson plays running back at the quarterback position and runs for almost 2,000 yards, but does dick in his position, right? I think you have to take a look at the position they're playing, right? Are we rewarding a running back this in Lamar Jackson, or are we rewarding a quarterback, right? So I think Deshaun Watson put up almost 5,000 yards and led his team to a national championship that year. Lamar Jackson, fantastic season for Louisville that year. But he put up like 3,500 passing yards. But because he has 1,500 rushing yards, he wins the Heisman. And I completely thought that, since that day, the Heisman meant nothing to me, and it's just become a popularity contest. Right? They're basically rewarding the most popular player. Right? And so I feel that's what they're going to do again now is like there's almost pressure to make it Travis Hunter because of the popularity of Coach Prime and it's the Flash and all of that, right? But guys, we got to consider Ashton Jeanty here. So there's a page on X at the Herd Bros. I'm assuming two possible situations, either Marshall fans or North Dakota State. If the name is based on like a team they like, it could just be something that, maybe their last name's Herd. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. But at the Herd Bros, put a fantastic thread together for an argument for Ashton Jeanty. And I'm going to read these tweets because reading these tweets will give you they've put into words better than I can say what my argument is for why I believe if I was awarding the Heisman, it would go to Ashton Jeanty. Here's why. Ashton Jeanty is the best running back in the nation. Ashton Jeanty, after contact, yards after contact, meaning after first hit, when you take the ball, right, you get the ball, and that after that first hit, right, and you still continue running, how many yards, right? Yards after contact, second best running back in the nation. Travis Hunter might not be the best wide receiver on his team. And his quarterback is going to be a top 5 pick. He's not even anywhere close to being a finalist for best cornerback. So this argument of Travis Hunter playing both sides, right? I think that's ultimately going to bite him in the ass because he's not the best corner, nowhere close to the best corner in the league. He's not even the best receiver on his team, and he's got a top 5 pick as a quarterback, right? Whereas Ashton Jeanty, just from the get-go, playing Boise State, right? Best running back in the nation, second best in yards after first contact. The debate should end there. The debate should be there, right? However, they've played equal competition in terms of strength of schedule rank. Right? People sitting here acting like Colorado's played a much harder schedule than Boise State, and it's not even anywhere close. They're very equal in terms of strength of schedule. However, Ginty's best games have come against the best competition that he has faced. Number 1, Oregon. Number 25, UNLV, Washington State, and Georgia Southern. Travis Hunter has faced one ranked opponent and was held to 3 receptions and 26 yards. When Boise is up 4 scores, so when they're up 28 or more, Ginty sits out the entire second half and still has 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. Travis Hunter is currently stat padding against the worst of the Big 12. That was Oklahoma State, up 52 points. So again, this is where the debate should end. What is this argument? The argument that Colorado plays harder competition because they're in the Big 12 doesn't make sense. The Big 12 is ass this year, guys. You got like 3 good teams, Colorado being one of them. Oklahoma State traditionally is at the top of the conference. They're at the bottom. You just beat them by 52, and Travis Hunter stayed in all game to stat pad against the worst team in the conference. When Boise's up 28, they rest their starters. They take Ginty out. Travis Hunter has played one ranked team all year. He's played one ranked team all year. That team was Kansas State. Colorado lost. Travis Hunter only had 26 yards. When Ashton Ginty played against the number 1 team in the nation, against Oregon, what was his stats? The number 1 team in the nation against Oregon on September the 7th. Boise lost by 3. A team they should have probably been absolutely destroyed by. Ashton Ginty put up 3 touchdowns and 192 yards on 25 carries against the number 1 team in the country. The argument should end there. But let's continue one step further. Colorado would be in the same spot it is right now had Travis Hunter not been on the team. Boise State loses more than half of its points scored this season if Ashton Ginty's not on the team. He has over half their points. Right? So the Heisman's essentially the MVP award, right? So the MVP award, and I always have this argument every year with Junkyard James and stuff about what the MVP actually is. It's the most valuable player to your team, right? If we're doing most valuable player, Travis Hunter is nowhere in the freaking picture. Ashton Ginty blows this away. He's the most important player to his team in college football this year. He leaves, right? He leaves the team. They're 0-12. Like, quite honestly, that is how good and impactful of a season he's having right now. Travis Hunter is an amazing athlete who will go on to do great things. but he is not the player worthy of the Heisman Trophy in college football. If he wins, I get it, but he shouldn't win. He shouldn't win. It has to be Ashton Jeanty. If it's not, it's a popularity contest. And the Heisman once again loses any relevance or importance. It's just been bowed down to a popularity contest. So let's get to the second issue on the term of college football, and that's if I did the college football playoffs. So as I see it right now, there are 11 teams locked into this 12-team playoff. I believe Oregon's locked in regardless of the result of the the Big Ten championship. Regardless of who wins between Oregon and Penn State, I think Oregon's locked in. Regardless of what happens in the SEC championship, I think Texas is locked in. I think Ohio State will be locked in. They'll be a lower seed. They'll be like an 8 seed, right? Ohio State is locked in. Again, regardless of the SEC championship, whether Texas or Georgia wins, doesn't matter. I do think both teams are in. Texas locked in. I think Georgia is locked in. Regardless of the Big Ten championship, whether Oregon wins or Penn State wins, both Oregon and Penn State will be in the tournament. I think Notre Dame is locked in. They'll be a 6 seed more than likely. I think Indiana at 11-1 will be locked in. You cannot keep Indiana out. This is one of the teams that a lot of people are saying that the committee could leave out because they finished, I think, fourth in the conference. They finished 11-1, and that one was to Ohio State, and they lost by like 3 points. You can't keep Indiana out of the tournament. You can't. I think Boise, as long as they do their shit, they got to win the Mountain West Conference. I think they play UNLV. You have to win this game, and I think they do, and I think they're locked in. But what really fucks things up is if they lose, I still think Boise's in. There'll be a 12. There'll be that 12th team locked in. That really, Boise losing the Mountain West does a couple things. Because so it does a couple things in that it definitely ruins the group of 5. For those who don't understand, like the group of 5 are the Mountain West, the Mid-Atlantic, the American, the Sun Belt, and the CUSA. Those are what we know as the group of 5 conferences. They're basically only going to get one team each year, and it's the highest ranked one of them, right? So the official rules, see, this is why I'm so confused, because when they initially announced this was before the Pac-12 basically dissolved on itself, and the rules were it was going to be 6 conference champions get in. It would be the Power 5, so the Pac-12, the ACC, the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12 conference champions would be in. You would get the best. The 6th conference champion would be the highest ranked group of 5, and then you would get the next 6 best teams. That's how it was originally supposed to be. But then the Pac-12 dissolved, and so they changed the rules, and there's going to be 5 auto bids, and it was just going to be the top 5 ranked conference winners, right? Which is still essentially saying the now Power 4, since the Pac-12 aren't in it, conference champions get in, and then it's the best of the group of 5. It's the same thing, right? You're not gonna if the CUSA, or let's use the Sun Belt, if JMU went undefeated and won the Sun Belt, you're not gonna rank them higher than the ACC champion. You're not gonna do that, right? It's the same law. That's why when I talk about this playoff, when I say auto bids, I'm going off of the assumption that they're still ranking the ACC as more important than the CUSA or the Mountain West. Now, I do think Boise will, if they win the Mountain West, they will be a 4 or a 3 seed. I could see them being a 3 seed, right? So up to this point, the 8 teams that I believe are locked in: Oregon, Texas, Ohio State, Georgia, Penn State, Notre Dame, Indiana, Boise State. I think Tennessee is a lock, no matter what. I think they're a lock. I think they're on the cusp of being out, but I think they're a lock. And then you're going to get the winner of Arizona State versus Iowa State, which I believe is going to be Arizona State. And then you're going to get the winner of SMU versus Clemson. There's a parentheses that I put next to that, being that if Clemson wins, right? So I have here listed a battle for the last team in, a battle for spot 12. And I listed 3 teams. I believe there are 3 teams that are battling for this last spot. I think essentially what we've come down to is a battle between about 4 teams to get this last spot, right? So those 3 teams will be Alabama, South Carolina, and the loser of the ACC championship, right? So let's play this perspective out. If SMU wins, they're locked. They'll be a 3 seed. They're 12-1 at that point, ACC champions. They'll be a 3 seed. That puts Clemson as the loser. They're at the back of this. They're not in. If Clemson loses, they're not in because of 1 loss. I don't think the South Carolina loss is all that negative. I don't think the Georgia loss is all that negative. It's the Louisville loss. If Clemson beats Louisville, I think they're locked in. I think they have a stronger argument than the other 2 teams. So if SMU wins the conference championship, I think Clemson's eliminated. I think the 12th spot will be the battle between South Carolina and Alabama. And what I think that comes down to is Alabama beat South Carolina. Alabama beat South Carolina in the head-to-head. And that's what I honestly think it comes down to. I think South Carolina has them beat on any other argument you want to make. But the head-to-head, I think, speaks louder than anything else. I think South Carolina is the better team and deserves to be in, just personally. And I'm a Clemson fan. We're not supposed to say that. But I think South Carolina would be better for the playoffs than Alabama. But I think Alabama's got 2 things going for it. They beat South Carolina earlier in the year, and they got the media bias, blue blood. We can't have a playoff without Alabama sort of bias, right? If Clemson wins the ACC championship, well, then South Carolina and Alabama are out because SMU has a much stronger resume to make that 12th spot. And that is they're 11-2 in a conference championship, and their only loss was to ranked BYU by like 2 points. I think that's all they have because the rest of their schedule isn't all that tough, SMU. But I think I think SMU is a lock. It's just where they're going to be seated. And so if you're Alabama or if you're South Carolina, what you're hoping for is Clemson to get beat this Saturday. I think that's the only chance any of you 2 have to get in. If you're South Carolina and Clemson loses Saturday night, because college football loves to do this to me. I'm a Clemson fan. I'm supposed to be watching this ACC championship game, but deadline's on at the same time. What am I going to – I'm going to watch both. I'm going to have the game on my phone with one headphone in while I watch Deadline. But I think essentially what we're down to is who wins the ACC, because that is the most important. That the ACC championship game determines who that last spot is. Because if Clemson wins, it's going to be SMU, I believe. If SMU wins, I believe it's going to be Alabama and South Carolina, right? But this is going to lead to this conversation. So if you guys go back about a year and a half ago, me, James, Cody, and my friend Jeremy, and my friend Josh, we used to do the Calling Audibles podcast, right? And it's probably about 2 years ago at this point. And when I talked about expanding the playoffs, because we talked about this, I said, I made the argument that you have to do at least 16 teams and how I would do that. But I would argue for 32. And everyone was like, oh, that's too many. Here's the thing, right? So there's two arguments against, me having 32. Here it is. The first one is, oh, that's too many teams. And that tends to be the normal response to when I say there should be a 32-team playoff. Oh, that's too many teams. Or what about the bowl games? Guys, no one cares about the bowl games this year. You know what everyone's talking about? The college football playoff, right? When we come to March Madness, right? No one cares about any of the other games until March Madness, right? No one cares about the NIL or excuse me, the NIT. No one cares about the NIT tournament. No one cares about any of the other tournaments that teams make at the end of the year. Everyone only cares about March Madness, right? It's about making the final 68 teams. If you and making a playoff game or a play-in game, if you're right, it's about making the final 64 team bracket, right? And I think college football, you could literally call it the December to Remember tournament or something like that. Have it sponsored by Kia, because isn't it Kia or Nissan, whatever company it is that does the December to Remember event? Oh, sorry. That's Lexus. Okay, that's even better. Have it sponsored by Lexus. Have it be the Lexus December to Remember college football playoff. I don't see how that's a negative. You remove all the bowl games, because here's the thing in the bowl games. You get 6 wins, you go to a bowl game. That rewards mediocrity. I think you need to have 8 wins, and if you have 8 wins, more than likely you're going to be in a competition to be in the final 32-team bracket. Right? I think we should reward winning, not mediocrity. That's just me, right? But I also think 12 teams is great. It's better than the 4-team playoff. But I also think that you're going to have these teams. You're going to have a South Carolina saying, man, you robbed us. Well, South Carolina would be in with a 16 team, but they would definitely, right? So how do you run a 32-team playoff? How do you run a 32-team playoff? You get all 10 conference champions in, right? Right. So you get all 10 conference champions, right? Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC, SEC, Sun Belt, CUSA, MAC, Atlantic, and the American. You get all their conference champions auto bid, just like they do with college basketball, right? That's 10 auto bids. The seeding will change, right? The MAC isn't going to be in the top 10 seed. They'll probably be like a 15 or a 16, right? And then you run the next 22 best teams. And you can do north, south, east, and west like they do with March Madness. Eight teams per division or side of the bracket. You can create a little app. You can do, bracket challenge just like, right? I talk about mass marketing. You mass market bro, that has to be the future. I don't understand why we don't have these conversations. People try to avoid this, right? And so the other argument is from the traditionalists of college football, who are still mad that we got rid of the BCS model, and it's not that the national championship should be determined by a computer who puts in all these stats, and we shouldn't have a playoff, and they're you're just a sports bro, and the more you try to fix it, the more you ruin it type argument. Guys, shut the fuck up. Shut up. The playoff fixed college football, and a 32-team playoff would be the absolute best for college football. Right? It creates parity. It creates opportunity. It rewards winning. Remove the bowl games that reward mediocrity. Make them playoff games for 9-win, 10-win, 11-win, 12-win teams. Force everyone to join a conference. I'm looking at you, Notre Dame, UConn, and UMass. Force everyone to join a conference. You can only get in if you're part of a conference. If you win your conference championship game, you're an automatic bid. And if you lose, you may still get in if if you still won during the regular season. I would change the conference rules to where every conference had to play 11. Pardon me, 9. Every conference should have 9 conference games. And then you get the 32 best teams at the end of the year. And then it's any given game. Right? Any given game for that playoff. You can have upsets just like you can any given day. That's the rule of sports, right? Any given game you could lose or win, right? That's the whole idea between sports, right? I think it provides opportunity for the smaller conferences, right? For the smaller teams, for the players. Doesn't guarantee outcome. Doesn't mean Coastal Carolina is going to win the Sun Belt and automatically be guaranteed a national championship. But it gives them the opportunity. That's what I've been fighting for, and I will continue to fight for. All right, we're an hour into this thing. That's cool. That's crazy because we're probably about to go another hour on this last topic. We're about to get, as the thumbnail says, controversial. Let's get controversial. Oh boy, let me set this up. So I had this thought the other day that I put in the casual wrestling community Discord. We have a chat for just venting, and it's just like whenever you have like a thought or something that crosses your mind that irritates you, and you just need to vent against it, right? Whether it's like, oh, I had this customer and blah blah blah, or man, I can't stand this and that, right? Well, I made a post, and I didn't mean for it to go the way that it did. I just sort of wanted to vent about, because I saw on X that there's an OnlyFans. I'm going to use the word model here, but I'm not going to use it at the end of this argument, right? This OnlyFans model who has made like $43 million this year off of OnlyFans, right? And I saw that post, and it got me thinking, like, and so I know the first response is, man, that's like, I understand. Like, I don't need you to come into the comments and be like, well, that's like an outlier. That's not everyone. Most people on OnlyFans barely make enough money to live, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's fine. I understand that argument. Right? I understand that argument. So from the jump, I understand that that's the case. Because don't let these models get in your head. Get in your head. Don't let them get your panties in a wad, guys. They're not in a wad. I have concerns with OnlyFans culture in the first place. Right. So here's the hot take. OnlyFans is disgusting, deviant behavior. Not just from the women, but from the men who's buying. But before I go all in on OnlyFans, it's not just them. It's Pornhub. It's the music industry. It's Sabrina Carpenter and the like faking sex acts in concert. It's all of mainstream culture. It's the Whatever podcast that is a platform for OnlyFans, and this is where I'm changing the word, whores, prostitutes, to be platformed. It's the sugarcoating of what the industry actually is, and that is prostitution. You are selling your body as a sexual favor or service to someone else. That is quite literally the definition of prostitution. Prostitution as a definition in the law books is an act of engaging in sexual activity with someone in exchange for money or other valuables, usually with someone who is not a friend or a spouse. In the United States, prostitution is illegal in most states, with the exception of some parts of Nevada. The federal government generally leaves prosecution of prostitution to the states, but it does address trafficking across state lines in the Mann Act passed in 1910. Now, so I understand, the initial comeback at that definition is, well, they're not doing actual sexual activities, which I get. But I believe we need to expand on that definition. It shouldn't just be like the performance of actual sexual intercourse for money. I think prostitution needs to be defined as that, but expanded as the selling of anything sexual in nature, whether it's pictures, videos, chats. If you're selling yourself, right, for, in sexual circumstances for money, I believe that's prostitution. Which goes back to my hot take. OnlyFans is disgusting, deviant behavior, not just for the women, but for the men who buy. And anyone who platforms this, it's the music industry, which tells women that it's okay to go sleep around. It tells men that in order to be a man, you got to bag as many girls as you can. And it's not just rap music. Country music's pushing out the same message in their music of go find you a girl at the bar, take the drunk girl home, do it again the next weekend, right? Country music, pop music, rap music, they're all selling the same message. You know why? They're all controlled by the same music industry, right? It's women thinking that under the guise of feminism and women's rights and I'm a independent boss bitch, right? That I can do whatever I want. And so they go out and instead of having actual freedom, Original feminists fought and literally died for the right to vote, not so that y'all could shake your ass on the internet. That's not women empowerment. That's you objectifying yourself. It's people like Sabrina Carpenter with large audiences of fans that are kids who simulate sexual activity behind curtains in her concerts. And I have something to say on that in and of itself. You have kids there. Anytime a kid is introduced to a sexual environment, it's not entertainment, it's grooming. That's grooming behavior. It's Pornhub, which is, prostitution is illegal unless you tape it, call it pornography, and now it's merely entertainment. Right? Nah, it's prostitution. It's the entire culture that I'm frustrated with. And it may be, morally stuck up the way I'm viewing this. It may be a little morally stuck up, like I'm riding on a high horse. But our culture is parading deviant, disgusting, culture-ending, nation-ending behavior as if it's acceptable and sustainable. And it's not. This isn't sustainable for a culture. For one reason, the number one reason is that it parades a culture of death. And what do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? This doesn't lead to life. It doesn't lead to family building. It leads to sleep around. It leads to behaviors that don't end in the thinking of future generations, and so we don't have future generations. It leads to a culture that I don't think we understand the actual destruction that we're promoting. And I know you're going to just sit here and think like, bro, you're thinking too deep. They're just selling bikini photos. But it's more than that. It's a culture that promotes self objectification so that we can get a little bit of self gratification, right? It's women are now being taught in this society that you have zero worth in the rest of humanity, that your only worth is, and you can make a lot of money doing this. Go jump on the internet and sell your booty pics. Right? Women immediately jump to that. Right now, I'm not a red pill bro whatsoever. I hate the red pills. I think people like Myron Williams, I think is his name, and Andrew Tate, I think, especially Andrew Tate, I think they're the trash of the world. Andrew Tate has gone online and basically stated that he's a sex trafficker. I don't like them whatsoever. They're part of the problem. They're part of the problem. I'm not trying, and I also want to say that I'm not just blaming women only. There is a little bit of blame there. Y'all jump so quick to this means of making money, and you twist the original intent of the feminist movement to get you the right to vote, right? Third wave feminism is essentially just socialistic in culture, and what it promotes. It promotes equity, not equality. It promotes, at this point, third wave feminism isn't a we want to be equal, we want to be better than, we want to be on top of men in a structural culture. We want to domineer over men. The funny part about that is there's a place, right? And so I do have to get to this, because I think the way we view this is a world view thing, right? How you view the world, right? And so I've done a lot to try to sort of like avoid conversations on religion on this podcast. I've mentioned it, like when I did like single episodes, when it was just me like this at the beginning, I would mention certain things like that on like tangents. But I think, I just said what I just said about like that third wave feminism is, wanting to domineer over men and not be equal to men. And I have to bring this up because we see that somewhere. We see that somewhere. We see that in if you're religious, whether you're Jewish and you're reading the Tanakh or the first 5 books of the Torah, right? Or if you're Christian and you read the Bible, it's the book of Genesis. We see it in Genesis. At the curse of man, after they ate the fruit, the punishments that God lays to women are what? Pain in childbirth. And if you're following along, I'm not making this up. It's Genesis 3, it's verse 16. It says, to the woman he said, I will greatly multiply your pain in childbirth. In pain you will bring forth children. Here's the point. Yet your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you. Right? That there's going to be strife between her and her husband. That the unity between man and woman has been broken. And that she's going to desire to be over man, but man is actually over woman. Right? Take it as you wish. But I find it quite funny and quite sort of ironic that this third wave feminist movement is essentially trying to do exactly what was just said there. Domineer over man. It's a worldview issue. If you don't see a problem with the hookup culture and sleeping around, getting as many girls or guys as you want, with prostitution of people, of unlimited access, like when you do studies on the porn industry, what you notice is, and this is astounding, what you notice, a couple things, right? I'm going to use 2 studies. In 2010, I believe, was when the first study was done. The average age of first consumption of pornography was 12, which is really low to begin with, right? Was about 12. With about, and I think it said, another part of the study was like, do you consume pornography at least once a week? And I think it was about 90 to 95% of men. I don't have it. This is from memory. So about 90 to 95% of men said yes, one time a week. And about 16% of women, one time a week. That was back in 2010. They redid this study in 2020, a decade apart. The average age of first consumption has gone down from 12 years old to 10 years old. Of men surveyed that said that they watch pornography at least once per week went up from about 90 to 95% to about 98%. And then where it gets really, because that's not astounding, right? That's the whole part of the whole industry was marketed towards men, right? An 8-point jump or a 3-point jump, whatever it was, right? It's not that big, right? The big jump comes in 2010, 16% of women. In 2020, 65% of women. That in a decade, we have normalized pornography to where women are watching and enjoying the content, but also believing the lie that is reality. Also believing that that's what men want and what men need, and feeling like that's what they need to do. We've normalized women self-objectifying. And it's not empowering. You're buying into what the patriarchy, right? If feminism's whole argument is kill the patriarchy, down with the patriarchy, and then you turn around and you provide content for the patriarchy. That's what they want you to do. I think it's a worldview thing. If you find nothing wrong with this, I'm not forcing my worldview on you. I'm giving you an opinion. You can disagree. But I think when we look at a worldview, right? Oh, you can't legalize morality. Actually, every single law in America is based on a moral principle. Right? Every single founding law that we have in this country, and every law that is based on Judeo-Christian values, they're all moral. Legislating is moral, right? I think it was John Adams. I think it was John Adams who stated that what was the quote? Something about a moral people. I'm gonna pull up the quote. Here it is. Here it is. Yeah, John Adams. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. The Constitution was formed. It's our founding document. It is the document the entire country goes to determine if something is legal or not, right? It's built for a moral and religious people. Every single law we have in this country, right? We criminalize murder because murder is morally wrong. We criminalize rape because rape is morally wrong. We criminalize theft because theft is morally wrong. Right? So yes, you can legislate morality. In fact, we do it every single day. And all I'm saying is that this type of behavior is culture ending, empire ending, right? If you look at history and you look at how Rome fell, they got distracted and effeminate. I'm just saying, the men who purchase, and I'm including myself in this group because, you know, I used to like, you know, I'm including Pornhub. If you've watched porn, you know, produce it even worse. If you know, because what I consider OnlyFans is pornography. Pornography, by definition, may just be like explicit naked material, but if you actually break down the word, right, words mean things, and the original definition and the original root words of the name pornography, ography is in picture or video form, right? And porneia is the Greek root word for porn. Porneia. It's a Greek word. I just pulled out, Genesis. If you turn to the New Testament, that word is in the original Greek of the New Testament. Porneia. It's seen throughout the whole New Testament, and it literally just means sexual immorality. It's sort of like a blanket term that can cover whether it's adultery, prostitution, bestiality, incest, rape, and any form of sexual deviant behavior, right? That's encompassed in this sort of blanket term, porneia. So pornography as a word is porneiography, sexual immorality in picture or video format. There was porn in ancient times where sort of like, as we find these archaeological digs, they would sort of like chisel it into rock. It's been around forever, right? But here's what I'll say. If you're buying into this system, whether you watch it for free, you're not watching it for free. There's ads for a reason that pays whatever website you're on, right? It's not free, right? And it's definitely not free, considering the fact that a lot of porn production feeds straight into sex trafficking, right? So men, I'm talking to the men right now. If you're participating in this deviant, disgusting behavior, and I'm talking to myself as well, because when I say pornography is addictive, it is just as addictive as heroin. In fact, it does more damage. So the reason I said that 12 years old is too young to watch it is because they've done studies on the brain where they essentially plug two normal human beings who had never seen porn, never done drugs or anything, right? Two normal human brains. They put up, they started doing brain scans. They gave one heroin, they gave one pornography. And they had the same destruction to the brain with both. Pornography is as addictive as opioids and does as much physical damage. When I say physical damage, I mean it literally creates neurological pathways that change the way the brain is made up. It is destructive. Not just from personal lifestyle, and that a lot of times it changes the way guys view women and all of that. But it physically changes and alters the brain. And when you're first introduced and addicted to it at 12 years old or 10 years old or anywhere in between that, but really before you're 25, because the human brain doesn't stop developing till it's 25, you're destroying it as it's growing. It's destructive in nature. And if you're participating in this, myself included, as someone who has participated in this, whether it's by viewership, producing, promoting it, it is disgusting, deviant behavior. Talking to myself, I'm not trying to ride up on a high horse and point down at everyone. I'm pointing back at myself as well. And men, and I'm talking to the men, if you participate in this industry, whether viewing, producing, or anything, I think, again, if you don't have the worldview, the moral worldview that I do, I'm not going to try to force that on you. But I think we need to consider this conversation. This is the conversation that needs to happen. It's a conversation that needs to happen, right? Men, I believe if you participate in this in any way, shape, or form in this industry, that is effeminate behavior. That doesn't make you a man, right? I know culture has lied to you and told you that manhood is that having a beard or, that's manly, or wearing flannel or being able to go to the gym and have a PR that's better than everyone else. That doesn't make you a man. Manhood is doing your job as assigned to you. This may be offensive. I don't care. Being a man is doing the job that was designed to you by the creator, whatever you believe in, right? By the creator. There was a created order for a reason, right? We were created to protect and provide, and instead we're exploiting women. That's what this is. Pornography, OnlyFans, the sexual stuff in the music, everything else, right? It's exploiting women. So typically these type of talks have call to actions, right? Here's the call to action. Men, just think about it. Contemplate. That's all I want this to do. I want this to be my opinion to create conversation. What have we become? What have we come to in culture where we've accepted the exploitation of women for two reasons? Because women can make money on it, so they're doing it for their own selfish reasons, and men are allowing it and even parading it and even pushing it upon the culture for their own self-gratification. I'm not just blaming women, I'm blaming mostly the men. Think back. Think on your life. What have you come to that this is okay to you? And then think about it. Maybe you got to make some changes. And so, in this conversation that I had with Wavy D was like, well, what isn't this a little bit hypocritical that we do Thirsty Tuesday and now you're complaining about this? And so it did make me think. He's right. I said I've participated in this before, in this industry of parading like the exploitation of women. Now the original idea, the original intent between Thirsty Tuesday was, just picking two women in wrestling and who is more attractive, right? I've never wanted this to be like who would I bone? Who would I go and sleep around with if I had the opportunity? That's never been the intent. The intent was always like, all right, given these two options, who are more attractive to you? And if you only find attraction in physical things, then that's you can deal with that. But attraction to me, I've stated this a numerous amount of times, that attraction to me is personality. It is the looks. It's the whole package, right? And so to me, it was like, who's the most attractive from, if you saw both of these women in front of you, who would you be more attracted to? Whether it's personality or looks, that's up to you. It has turned into a little bit more of like, who would you bone? And all of that. And Wavy D's right. Is it hypocritical? I don't necessarily think so, because the intent wasn't like pushing the go and sexualize these women. If that's what ended up happening when you saw this, then y'all took the intent the wrong way. But he's completely right. The whole concept behind it may not be necessarily, beneficial. I've also been contemplating this since probably around the time that we started this current Thirsty Tuesday bracket. That of getting rid of the segment. And so this is a good push to just say, this will be the final Thirsty Tuesday bracket we do, and then the segment's gone. Coming into 2025, that segment's gone. It actually works out perfect. We have 2 weeks left of this bracket. It'll be this Tuesday's episode and then next Tuesday's episode. So the 3rd and the 10th, right? And then on the 10th, we're done. The 17th is the end of the year award show. And that's going to be the final episode of the year. We're going to take a break, come back in 2025 and have season 4, right? So season 3 is about to come to an end. It's been a fun year. But yeah, Thirsty Tuesday's gone. This will be the last bracket. We'll end it on the 10th, and we'll find a way to create better conversation, and maybe find some new segments to do. But with that, I know this has been a long one. Thank you all for listening. And I will see you guys on the next episode. Have a great rest of your day.
So hit that subscribe, come along for the ride. AEW, WWE, we're always on side. From fantasy booking to baddies that slay. Slapping, meet, wrestling every Tuesday.